that would be the problem. Hey, there we go.
Hey.
Take two. That, hey, you are Hugh Shelton and Marc Matzenbacher.
Hey, guess what?
But, hi guys,
I'm
what's
all
going on? We have a lot of people on the live stream, don't we? Are we up to 5,000? We're just about at 5,000 people. Wow. Okay. Hi, guys. Welcome to the WildStar, the first official episode of the WildStar live stream. Some of you might have joined us last time for our little pilot episode where we kind of tested out all our cool stuff. But seems like everything worked pretty well for you and me, except for some of the nicknames that we made up for each other.
Nicknames, limited cursing, which is good.
That was true. We only slipped right at the very end.
Yeah.
I'm David Bass. I go by Scooter. I am the senior community manager for WildStar. And with me, I've got Stefan Frost, who is
the design producer here at Carbine Studios.
We are the only people who work on WildStar. It's just the
Period.
two of us, actually. Little known fact.
Make all the
so we're here. We've got a pretty new set. Well, pretty. We've got a prettier new set. We got a little more space here to spread out.
Sure.
And we are here today to talk about the Warrior.
Yeah, we are.
We've got some of the class designers here to come and chat with us and play through WildStar, show you guys what the Warrior can do, how awesome they are, and how fucking whoops.
Oh, bro! It's not even 3 minutes
30 seconds in.
Drops the
how
F-bomb.
Badass they are.
Drops the F-bomb.
Badass is fine. That's safe.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So before we get to those guys, I just wanted to go through. We've just started this week our new class drops, where we are reintroducing the old classes that have already been announced, probably announcing some new classes. And so this week was the first of many. And so we have up on our website the Warrior class page thrown up there. There it is. Yeah,
Which,
look
if
at
you
that.
have not been to see it yet, is awesome. There is tons of information on here. I mean, what do we got on this thing?
So we've got the new DevSpeak video, which we're going to show you here in a little bit if you haven't seen so far. We've got all the information about the Warrior class, the weapon they use, which is this giant sword. They've got an arm cannon. It shows all the information about that, the way you can play them, so tank or DPS, some of the sample abilities that you can use for each of those, some really awesome screenshots of the different weapons and the different armor that they have. We show, I believe, the available races. Can you scroll down that page a little bit? I want to show them the cool, sweet races and classes and stuff. Can we scroll down that? Maybe. Okay, never mind.
Never mind.
That's fine.
You can
You
totally
guys
go
should
there.
check it out.
Yeah.
We're just going to tease it. And you can check that out on the WildStar website. There we go.
Oh, there it is.
So
Yeah.
there's some lore about the Warrior. You can read up on how Warriors kind of got started as a class, as a choice that some people on Nexus made. Lots and lots of cool screenshots. The stream is actually live on the page as well. And so you can watch that stream. If you're not already watching the stream, you can go to that page and watch it.
Dude, it's Inception.
Yes, and we'll also have the archive of this episode there right after this show, so you can go back. If you miss any parts of the stream, you can go watch it there too. So, before we get to the actual class stuff for the Warrior,
Yeah.
this is a really exciting day for us because of the game that we're showing today. We're showing a brand new build. Nobody's seen this patch of the game so far. It is it's almost our winter beta build.
Yeah.
Got a few more things to do with it, but it's the beta we mentioned last time ended in August. We took a couple months where the team was just very focused on addressing beta feedback and addressing player feedback. And so over the next couple weeks, in addition to showing off all the different classes, we're also going to go through all the feedback that we got from people and the big system changes we made. So, for example, one of the big ones that everyone's going to see immediately today is the new quest system.
Yeah.
And so, do you want to talk a little bit about how the quest system used to work?
Sure.
And I'll explain the changes that we made.
Sure. So quest system used to be, pretty cut and dry. It would have your quest giver saying, "I need you to kill 4 Pumera. When you're done with that, just come back and talk with me." And we've updated that since then.
Yeah. So a lot of the feedback we got in beta was very much like, yeah, this is a quest system.
Sure.
Kind of standard, nothing really exciting, and we really took that to heart. We really realized that there were other things we could do with the system to make it feel more like a modern MMO. So one of the things you'll see in this new build is that quests no longer say, kill 10 chompies or whatever it is.
Sure.
Instead, there's a progress bar and a percentage, and that quest percentage grows as you kill things. And what that allows us to do is let you choose kind of the difficulty you want for your quest. If you want to just kill 10 Chompacabras, fine. You can kill a bunch of them, it'll grow that progress bar steadily, and you finish the quest. But if you want, you can go kill the massive, giant Dr. Chompy dude, and that quest bar will jump even further because you decided to kill something that was much more difficult. And so based on the difficulty you want, you'll be able to finish that quest faster or slower. And so that really makes it feel better. And then what that also lets us do open tagging, open mob tagging.
Which is a big thing for us.
Yeah.
We listen to a lot of people on beta forums via feedback that way. Just by tracking stuff in general, we were noticing that people were not big fans of the idea that if I tag something, nobody else can tag that mob. And so now, at the very least, if I am questing with somebody else, or if I'm not even in the same group, they can tag that creature as well for the kill count on the XP stuff, and it grows as well.
And your quest progress will be based off your contribution to that kill. And so you can go help people in the open world, and both of you will get credit for it. Both of you will progress your quests. You'll both get experience. I think you even both get loot now. Although differing levels of loot depending on how you contributed to it.
Yep.
So that really just makes this feel much, much better, and it's a really much more enjoyable experience for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to show you that in the stream. We just wanted to get to that first because it's a little tough to explain in the moment. And we also have a couple cool new combat systems that we're going to show off, but I'll leave that for the class designers to do. And so, anything you want to say before I kick you out?
No. Enjoy the Warrior stream, and we got some other tidbits later at the end of the show.
Yeah, I think Frost is going to come back to help us show something super special and secret that came up this week. So we'll invite you back after. But right now, I want to switch over and show you guys the Warrior DevSpeak video. If you haven't seen it yet, this is just kind of a basic overview of how the Warrior plays, narrated by our very own Stephen Frost.
Indeed.
And so you'll get to hear his lovely melodious voice one more time as we get everybody else situated. So thank you, Frost, and let's show the video.
Welcome to WildStar. This is DevSpeak. Do not feed the disclaimer. It's time to unleash the people's eyebrow of classes. He prefers to be known as the Warrior! Our goal with the Warrior was to make a close-range, brute force brawler that uses high-tech weaponry and atomic energy to close distances, generate threat, and bring the damages. He's kind of a nuclear-powered Swiss Army knife, attached to a pro wrestler. The Warrior comes fully loaded with a giant power sword, heavy armor, brute force, and a cannon on his arm. A giant arm cannon. So first things first, the Warrior has this power sword, and he uses it to smash through anything that gets in his way. Now the Warrior's arm cannon can do a little bit of everything. Shoot this fool. Grapple that guy. Power saw this thing. Water some flowers. Then you've got my favorite part. His 1980s wrestling moves. Bitch slap. Body check. Power kick. Power kick. Power kick to death. I mean, what are these guys gonna do? You've got heavy armor! Yeah! And thanks to limited action set, I can build my Warrior out sweet. I can roll him straight up tank, or go balls to the wall damage. Maybe a healthy dose of both? So that's the Warrior. Get your eyeballs over to the website and smell what the Warrior is cooking. And drop us an elbow on social media. Remember, the devs are listening.
And we're back. And Frost is gone and magically split into two people.
Wow.
So with
Look at
me,
that.
I've got, those nameplates are out of order again.
I'm
I'm Hugh
not
Shelton.
Frost.
You are Stephen Frost.
Yes,
No,
I
I'm
am.
the only one that's right. This guy.
So I'm David Bass again. If you guys just joined us, we are showing off the Warrior in WildStar today. So with me, I've got Hugh Shelton, who is our class lead, and I've also got Marc Matzenbacher, who is the Warrior class designer. And so we're here. We're going to play through the Warrior today. We're going to show off the new WildStar combat system because there's been a lot of changes to it recently, and also just show off the Warrior and how cool they are because I think they're pretty awesome.
They're
yeah?
pretty awesome.
Yeah. So let's start off with just jumping over to the game and showing off something that we haven't shown before, a different race. Well, not a different race, but we're showing off a female Granok in the game. I don't think anyone's actually seen this live in the game yet.
I think, yeah,
And
only,
so
only in
Marc
trailers
just
and
made this lovely.
Maybe
What's her name?
Her name is Ruby.
Name's Ruby. Yes, which is totally appropriate for a Granok, right? So we've got a Ruby, the female Granok warrior, and I think she. What's her path?
A soldier.
Soldier. Awesome. So Ruby likes long walks on the beach, but also killing lots of things and using crazy technology and weaponry.
Gotta bring the damage.
Yeah, of course. So, go ahead and pop the UI back
Pop
on.
the UI on here.
So, here's our new beta. Yay. At first glance, it doesn't look super different. But there's a couple things we're going to go through. So first, do you want to just try a basic attack so we can show our new telegraph system?
Sure thing.
For people who are joining us who have never seen WildStar before, just a quick explanation. All of our attacks, all of player attacks and creature attacks all have telegraphs. So you can see on the ground where that attack's going to land. You can see enemy attacks and where they're going to hit. And so the combat is much more about positioning, about making sure you're staying out of the bad attacks, but getting as many creatures as possible in your attacks. Because as long as they're sitting in that arc, they're going to get hit.
Yep.
So if you keep using your basic attack, you can see that that third attack actually has a line that goes through the telegraph, and that's actually showing you the cast time. And this is a brand new thing in our telegraph system. You'll see this once he starts attacking some creatures. Go ahead and start heading out.
Well, actually, you probably build out a
Oh
little
yeah,
action
I
set
forgot.
here.
You should probably build your bar. We'll talk about the telegraphs when he starts attacking some creatures.
If he went out there with just Relentless Strikes, it would not end up well.
it would
Yeah.
be about as well as the rehearsal went.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could probably do it, but
But okay,
He could
so
do it.
one of the other features of WildStar is that we have a limited action set, which is that top bar of abilities down at the bottom of the screen. You can slot 8 abilities, right?
That's
8
right.
abilities.
You can slot 8 class abilities.
Right.
You also have 1 slot for your path ability,
Yep.
and then you can also equip a gadget item, which will add another ability to your bar.
Yeah, we'll talk about gadgets in the future. But
at the lower levels, you don't have all 8. You can see here, I still have 1 locked because I'm level 18 right now. But as you level up, you will get more slots until the max of 8.
yeah, and so Marc's going to go build out his character. He's got a bunch of different categories to choose from. You're on the Assault tab right now, which is basically your DPS, right?
Yeah, so you have Assault, Support, and Utility, and then Path is over here for your Path abilities. So as you can see here, I'm just going to add a couple abilities to my action set.
And so this action set, you can build this anytime that you're out of combat, right?
Yep.
And you can change it around.
Anytime you're out of combat, you're able to set it up.
And so you can have as many different loadouts as you want just by swapping them around whenever you're not in the middle of a fight.
We also have a loadout system planned where you'll be able to save these sort of a thing.
And so you can just switch it all at once by clicking
Yeah.
one
Yes.
button or whatever. Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Which is helpful because if you can notice here, one of the things that we added this milestone for beta is the tiers. So you can improve the power of your abilities. As you see here, I'm adding tiers. If they will tier, there we go. If you'll notice too, there are 8 tiers. We have 3 minor tiers in between 2 major tiers. The minor tiers will basically just kind of improve the basic power of the ability.
So like the damage or the healing.
Right, or kind of whatever the ability is designed
Right.
to do, it'll increase that. And then you have 2 major tiers, which will add more powerful, kind of more unique bonuses. For example, for Whirlwind, an ability some people who have played in beta are familiar with, while you are channeling Whirlwind and you have the major tier, it will increase your movement speed as you're channeling, so you can kind of get around faster.
Awesome.
Yeah, the general idea of the ability tiering system is it's something that we added based on beta player feedback. Players wanted ways of making their character feel more unique from other characters. They wanted to make some of their abilities stronger than their other abilities. And this is our system to accomplish that.
Well, this is actually half of that system.
That is
This
right?
this is the system for the ability specific stuff, but then we have another system.
Do you want to talk about amps? Should we talk about amps?
Why don't we talk about it when we go over the
Let's do the amps after.
tiering
Yeah,
stuff.
We'll do amps. Okay,
I'm sure
so-
everyone in chat's like, no, wait, do it
Yeah,
now.
let's show some gameplay.
Let's
That's
let's
what
play the
people
game. We'll
came
come back to it
see.
after. We got
Yeah.
plenty of time.
So I'm going to save out my action set, and you can now see I have all the abilities on my bar. One thing really quick I wanted to go over as well, one thing that we added as well is the innate abilities are essentially abilities that you always have regardless of your action set. And for the warrior specifically, you have 2 stances. You have an offensive stance, Juggernaut, and a defensive stance, Bulwark, that you can just switch in between, as you see here.
If he changes those stances, it changes the active abilities that are tied to the innate. So why don't we show those off once we're in combat a little bit later?
And those are basically, you have one stance for DPS and one stance for tanking for the
Correct.
warrior specifically.
So I'm going to hop out here.
So we are right now in Galaris, but we're actually in a section of Galaris that we haven't shown before. I think the only stuff we've shown for Galaris, which is like a level 14 to 20-ish zone. The area we've shown in videos and screenshots specifically is the like the war-torn area, the part of it that is like the Dominion and Exile are fighting each other, and there's just lots of tanks and stuff all over the place. But this is actually a different section of Galaris, where there's all these animals and creatures fighting each other and wandering around. And further down south is actually where the Pell live. We'll head down there eventually. But that's also where you'll find Storm Talon's lair, which is a dungeon we've shown off before.
Sorry, I got
Sorry.
a little mic
Technical
issue here.
difficulties. We'll
We all
take care
good here?
of
We all
this,
good?
and then we'll be good.
All right, so as we can see here, we have a bunch of creatures, and I'm just going to go ahead and start fighting.
And you can see before you even aggro them, those creatures are kind of telegraphing themselves or fighting each other. Can you zoom in just a little bit so we can show? So you can see, here's the new telegraph. So you see that there's a giant red circle, but there's actually a cast time inside of it that's growing.
Yeah, and he's actually doing a really bad job of getting out of the telegraphs. He's kind of standing on the edges of them and getting hit by them, but he could be moving out of those and avoiding all damage
He
altogether.
could, but the advantage here of this new telegraph system is that it's much easier to know exactly when you need to dodge out
Yeah.
of the way of something.
Yeah.
And so you can see there's a big swipe he's about to do. And so Marc can either interrupt them, he can knock them down, he can crowd control them, or he can just dodge out of the way. And so these, for example, these circles are actually just like clouds of gas that are just putting a dot on you. And so as that cast time grows, you know when it's going to end,
Yep.
but it's already started at that point.
Yeah, that's one of the upgrades that we made to the system because players didn't necessarily know when a telegraph was going to end. They didn't know if a telegraph on the ground was going to be damaging them the whole time it was out. So we added things like the edges kind of are sharp. They show
Right.
you that you're going to be taking damage. And there's other upgrades that we're still working on here to make sure that players know, hey, I really need to be out of there.
And this is really relevant for PvP because now when you're fighting another player, you're seeing when their telegraph's actually going to go off.
Yeah.
So they can't just spin at the last minute and hit you because you're ready for it.
Oh,
Oh, no.
Look at this.
Oh, he just got blinded.
What perfect timing to talk about crowd control and breakout gameplay. So
There is one other thing on the telegraph
Oh,
system I'd like
please.
to touch on.
Go
though.
for it.
I've heard things on the internet about people worrying about these telegraphs being too bright, and all you see in the world are the red telegraphs.
got a little bit of
We
an
actually
ad
give
here.
players the option to adjust the opacity of those telegraphs, so that if you don't like seeing them that much, you could even turn them off completely. And maybe after Marc finishes up with his fight, we could show those options off.
Oh, sure.
Oh, get interrupted.
Nice, sweet interrupt right there. So we explained this last time on the stream, but we've got a ton of new viewers this time. What happens when you interrupt a creature that's telegraphing and his health bar turns purple? What's that all about?
So they go vulnerable for a short time, and while they're vulnerable, they take more damage. So a skilled player, or relatively skilled player, will take advantage of that by using burst damage or using their heavy attacks when they can to kind of get the most oomph out of it when they can.
And so so you have, I know you have a specific combo you like using for that, right?
Yes, I use kick to interrupt, which obviously I didn't fight anything, didn't do anything, followed by savage strikes, which does double damage to knock down enemies. So if you interrupt them, they are vulnerable, they are knocked down, so now you're doing even more damage because you're getting the knockdown bonus and the vulnerable bonus.
I'd like to point out something based on the comments in chat. I guess that people are thinking that maybe the Arn is a pet. It's not actually a pet. It's part of a quest that you're on.
Right, yeah, she's kind of following me around. The quest I'm doing is investigating some camps for for kind of like a research faction, and she's one of those members, and she's kind of following me around. So now that I'm out of combat, I'll go in and show the options for the telegraph.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about
Oh,
before.
sure.
Where you can go in.
We have a
you can,
ton of new options in
Yeah,
here
you
because
can
there's
adjust
so many more stuff.
the opacity of your telegraphs. You can turn on which types of telegraphs are shown. So if you don't want to see your ally heals, you can turn that off. If you don't want to see the enemy telegraphs, if you hate yourself, if you want to make combat more difficult, you can do that.
Challenge.
Yes.
So I'm gonna
Awesome.
go back to
Thank
game
you,
here
guys.
and keep on going.
So we were talking about crowd control before, and I'm sure we're going to hit someone again who can
Yeah.
crowd control you. But one of the things you saw from that the Scorpion dude that he can do is he can blind you.
Yeah.
And so crowd control in WildStar, you want to talk a little bit about that? Because it's kind of different than other MMOs.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for it as we're going, but also, in general, we always want players to be able to perform some sort of action when they're in combat, even if they are under a CC.
Sure.
So if you get hit by a stun, you're not just stuck there doing nothing. You're able to get out of it faster by doing a little mini game where you hit a button quickly. And then there's other crowd controls like blind that you saw where it impairs your vision. You're still able to see, but you kind of have to tilt your camera so you can look.
Or kind of squint through it like
Yeah,
I do.
so you
I'll watch this pro move. Ready?
Yeah, so crowd control. Whoa. Nice save there.
So one of the things that we added as well from previous beta is we had kind of prevented you from leaping, which is one of the cool warrior attacks if you were jumping, and it kind of made it a little less fun. So we added that back in, so you can kind of jump around to move around or to get
Can
to
you
your
jump
enemies.
around?
Yeah.
With one of the
Jump up and
tiers.
down.
Jump around.
Yeah.
Look, he's jumping around.
Like, yes. Nice.
Also, one of the tiers for, as we mentioned, the tiers make the
Whoa.
abilities more powerful.
you're gonna die.
He lives.
One of the tiers allows you to use leap a second time, so you can kind of leap
Whoa,
in
I did
between
not know
enemies
that.
very fast, or if you're just moving around the battlefield as you're running to quests
Yeah.
or whatever, you can use it again.
That's a good example of the tiers that we added. That we want to change up your rotation. We want to reward your good gameplay, and we want to change up your rotation because after you've gone to a certain level, you have most of the abilities already. We want you to change what you are doing in each fight.
Right.
And
Oh,
do
so
that
you
by
actually just
tiering up
unlocked a
abilities.
challenge here. And this works out nicely because we didn't talk about challenges last time. So challenges are kind of things that pop up in the open world as you're running around questing, exploring, and they pop up based on the content that you're consuming. And so right now, you're killing a bunch of Pell, and so a challenge pops up and says, hey, keep killing Pell. I'm giving you a timer. If you can kill, I think it says 11, right, for a bronze medal or a silver or gold medal, the more you kill within that time limit, we'll give you a special reward.
Right.
And these are all over the world. Just everything you're doing, we want to reward you for what it is you're doing
Yep.
by giving you encouragement to keep doing that.
Isn't that part of our layered content where we layer challenges on top of quests?
Right. And so when you're doing something in the world, there's more than one thing. You know, when you're killing these guys, you can see they've got a little exclamation point next to their head showing that they're part of a quest objective.
They've
But they also...
got
Yeah, you're going to do
soldier
it?
icon
Oh,
This
soldier
is,
mission.
now he's showing off his path. Since he chose
Yes.
the soldier path, he has missions that other paths don't
and those are
have
the
access
missions
to.
in the bottom right data
Yeah,
ground.
it's, that
Yeah.
whole right section is dedicated to your path missions.
And so you can hit the G key to shoot some... What is it? I can't even see.
I believe it's some kind
Some
of experimental
crazy missile,
weapon.
right?
Yes, that kind of
Um,
knocks them down. So it gives you an extra little tool in combat to use as you're fighting these guys.
And so, like we were saying with layered content, you can kill these Pell to complete a quest, to complete a challenge, and to do your path mission by shooting that crazy
Yep.
missile at him. You want to shoot one more missile at him?
Sure will.
Because that was pretty cool looking. Ready?
And as you would expect, all of our
Bam.
key bindings are resettable, so
Yes,
you're
of
not
course.
stuck with having G for this one ability.
Oh, knocked
Oh,
him again.
nice. See, so you just did the interrupt with the Savage Strikes combo there, and that takes out a
Yep.
huge chunk of his health.
And you saw the purple health bar go, which meant he was
Yep.
taking more damage because of it.
Awesome job.
So I'm going to head towards a different area after this guy goes downtown.
I am just being told that we just hit 10,000 people watching our stream.
That's pretty
Fantastic.
decent.
That's pretty solid.
Mark gave me a good idea earlier. He's told me that we need to imagine them all in their
underwear.
bedrooms or at their computer in their underwear. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, let's be fair. The camera is shooting us from the waist up. We're not wearing pants either.
Yeah, you never know.
I mean, we were, you know,
I'm
just
wearing,
rolled
I'm
out
wearing
of bed.
pants. I'm wearing.
So
Hugh just wants to cover his bases in case someone after the stream is like, really, you weren't wearing pants?
I have a wife.
So I'm heading over to a new area, and as I'm running over here, one thing you notice is our new sprint bar that we added in.
Oh,
Yep.
right in the middle
Yeah,
of the
we've
screen.
always had a sprint bar to show you how much sprint you have, but before it was down on the bottom of the screen, and we have a lot going on down there already. Which actually, it's a good thing to point out. Our shield bar. You see our shields on top of
Down
our
at the
health.
bottom, yeah.
Yep.
And
Most
every
time-
class has shields.
Every
right?
class has access to shields. Certain classes have access to being able to restore shields, and we'll talk about that when we get to the tank side of the warrior
Right.
a little bit. But unlike regular health pools, shields start to regenerate after you haven't taken damage for a little bit of a time, and they regenerate a lot faster than your health.
And so that means that while Mark's doing combat, if he's like about to die, if he can just dodge out of the way for a couple seconds, his shields will start recharging. His health won't, but his shields will like recharge up, and that'll give him a little extra time to try and get through that fight without dying.
Yep.
Yeah, it kind of
Awesome.
promotes fighting well so that you take the least amount of damage possible so that your health regens faster than your health so you can kind of go between fights
Right.
faster.
So someone's asking on the stream, Hecticax wants to know, how big is the world of WildStar? So, or the world of Nexus specifically. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how many zones we have. I'm not going to show you all of the stuff we have, but as soon as you get out of this combat, you want to pop up your map, and we can show you maybe the size of Gallerus. All of our zones, once you get past those starting couple zones, are very big.
Yeah, they're large.
And they're large, and we do stuff like you're seeing here in Gallerus, where there's a bunch of very distinct areas that have very different looks and feels. And so the war-torn area we've talked about with Gallerus is kind of in the top left-ish area,
Yep.
where we are is the bottom middle, and there's a whole section to the right,
Yeah,
too.
you can kind of see the area we've walked around in the
Yeah.
past 20 minutes.
And so this is just one zone right here, which is massive. You want to zoom in just to show where we are?
If I can remember where the zoom
Is the mouse wheel not working?
I don't think it is.
All right. So we won't zoom in, but there's a zoom in the top right. And
That's why I wore my glasses, so
Yeah,
I could
so
see this sort of
we're not going to zoom out anymore, but yeah,
sorry.
there we go. So we're just in that tiny area. We didn't even explore all of that. It kind of popped in some of it from before. But do you want to zoom out just 2 steps so we can show this continent? So this is a continent. We've talked about all these zones more. Some of them we've talked about before, but this is one continent. We've got 2 main continents. We've got a third one. We've got some off-world locations that people will go to, like asteroids and
Those
moons.
are some of my favorite locations.
Those are definitely some of the awesome ones, and we'll be showing those in future streams. I don't want to spoil anything too soon. So the world is pretty big. Go ahead and
Let's pop this
close that out.
Maybe it would be good to talk about the changes that we had been making to the warrior during our beta dark period.
Right.
The changes to the warrior, yes. So why don't you tell me? So we've shown the warrior previously at shows and stuff. The old system was kinetic cells, right? Which were those 3 little red circles that you saw right above the warrior's health bar.
There were the kinetic cells and there was kinetic energy, and we took away the kinetic cells, but we kept the kinetic energy.
So why'd you guys make that change?
We changed it because we wanted the warrior to be more of somebody who goes into the fight and they kind of just get in there and you want to keep going. You don't want to use up all your resource and slow down your momentum. You want to keep your momentum and be using your ability. It reward you for using your abilities constantly, basically.
And so you want to go pull something so we can show it working?
Yeah.
So if you look down at the bottom, right above the health bar, his kinetic energy is going to grow as he uses his basic attacks.
So
you
his
can see that little red bar.
His kinetic energy is going to grow. None of his attacks actually remove any of that ability, but some of his attacks require a certain amount of kinetic energy to be used. And as he's using those attacks, his kinetic energy is draining. So he's constantly able to use those attacks and then use his other attacks that generate to stay in the fight and build up momentum. And the higher kinetic energy he has, the more effective he's going to be at fighting.
Awesome.
The more damage he's going to do.
Yeah, and then the innate for the DPS for the stance you're in right now actually freezes it, right? Like it stops it from decaying.
Right.
And so
it's called the stance is Juggernaut, and when you activate it, it triggers Overdrive, which resets a lot of your cooldowns, and then essentially allows you to use all of your abilities that require kinetic energy for free as you're doing it for a short amount of time. Also increases your damage a little bit.
Awesome. Question on the stream, since we're talking about telegraphs. Suxi asks, as a colorblind player, can you change the color of your telegraphs?
We do have that system in. We're working on it. We also have colorblind options so that we actually have a chart where we look at the different types of colorblind that people can be, and we try to have options for those major groups.
Yeah, none of that stuff's in this build right now, so I can't show it to you.
Yeah, that's one of the things that
you guys have been doing a lot of research and investigation.
That's something that
into
our combat lead, Chris Lynch, has been working on.
Yeah, it's very important to us to make sure.
And I also, I want to make a shout out to Tim Hume, because he is the engineer working on the telegraph system, and he's been doing a ton of awesome stuff over the past.
Do you think he's watching right now?
I think he is. I think
he better be.
Watching. He might be here working.
Break,
he might actually be here working, I think.
I actually wanted to ask. Oh, the question disappeared. I was going to answer the question about incentive to group.
Right.
So there was a question on the stream about incentive to group, and people want to know, like, with the new quest system, with open tagging, why would I go group up if soloing is just as effective if I can go help out? And the answer to that is a system we haven't talked about yet, and we're not going to go into a ton of detail today about, but we are making sure that there is a huge incentive to group through the Renown system, which is, just to give a basic overview, it's a currency that you earn by playing content in groups. And that lets you buy special things through Renown currency. A lot of housing stuff is tied to it. A lot of other systems are tied to the Renown. And so you'll definitely want to group up with people if possible, because you'll be getting that extra currency that you wouldn't be able to get just by soloing or helping someone else out.
And when you group up, there are certain areas in the game that scale up to be more difficult based on the number of players that you have. Like the soldier holdouts that we haven't showed off yet. But
public events and even just kind of like group-oriented kind of bosses, mini bosses that are out in the world that are, an experienced or gear player would have, a challenge, whereas a normal player would have a much tougher time. And so grouping up for that allows you to do that.
And one of the things, when I was in beta playing the game, I grouped up with my wife and I grouped up with my brother. And there were 3 of us, so that we were able to get through things pretty easily, but you're also able to pull a lot more mobs at once.
Yeah, it's like killing one thing obviously is much easier when you have 3 people, but instead of pulling one thing, you pull 10 things and take them all down, and it feels much better.
Yeah.
Chiba wants to know in chat, Chiba's asking, because it's easier to dodge in combat, does that mean that enemies end up hitting harder?
This is something that we're going to be tuning as long as we're working on the game, but yes, we want the damage that you take to be significant if you're able to dodge out of that telegraph.
And we actually have been making some adjustments to that. I remember back in the old beta, back in August, telegraphs were just not very punishing. They were very easy, and you could just kind of stand through them, and it wasn't a big deal. And the recent changes I saw we made to this stuff makes it a little more punishing.
Yeah. Chris Lynch will be able to talk about all the creature combat to a much greater extent than I'm able to.
Yeah, he'll be on one of the next upcoming streams for one of the other classes. Did you just miss that leap?
No, I got him.
Did you get him?
One of the cool things about Leap is it is freeform, so if you use it when you don't have anybody in front of you, you'll just jump the full distance, but you'll still do damage at the end, like when you land. So if you can aim it, even if you aren't jumping directly to somebody and they're in your AoE range, you will still hit them with damage, which is nice. Oh, getting chucked.
Just got knocked up again.
Wait. Here we go, though.
And so that also means that you can use Leap as an escape in the middle of combat if you want to run away.
It gives it a lot more versatility than it used to have when it was a target ability.
You can use it to catch up to someone even if you're not in range of them.
Right. At one point, we had many target abilities throughout WildStar, and we've really, over the past couple milestones, have been cutting those out. We still have some target abilities on the healers to make it easy to heal in rage and dungeon situations where it's necessary to have that sort of control.
Right.
So I think we have just a couple minutes left before we're going to switch over. We're going to show the Dominion side in a minute. Keep pulling a couple more things.
I'd like to mention a few things that we changed the war
Sure.
besides the resource. We also updated a lot of the abilities. We changed the global cooldowns. This is the amount of time that you have to wait before you can use another ability after using a previous
You can see
ability.
when Marc uses an ability down the bottom, most of the abilities will have that scroll bar, that scrolling upwards.
You see that on all those abilities down at the bottom.
But you also see that some of them are actually off of that, so he could leap during that global cooldown.
That's one of the types of changes that we made. We made some of the abilities so that they're off GCD so that the combat in general is more fluid, there's a better rhythm to it, and using the variety of abilities that you have a different cadence than you would previously.
Yeah, it definitely feels a lot better because you can be much more reactive to what's going on around you.
Yeah, we also improved the pattern on abilities themselves specifically. For example, Power Strike here is one of the first abilities that you get. Requires kinetic energy. The more you use it in kind of rapid succession, the faster it becomes. The global cooldown gets released, so you can kind of start kind of on this like slow hit, and then if you keep using, you'll start rapidly smashing your enemies.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I know people probably think that I'm actually faking my surprise a lot of the time, but this is a brand new build that I haven't seen yet, and so I'm learning a lot today right on the stream, live with the rest of the people who are watching.
And the philosophy behind that type of ability is that it's one of the main. It's supposed to define your playstyle in a way. That's the one that requires kinetic energy. So you're going to be using that ability to do the most punishing damage more frequently than any of your other abilities. Whereas the other things that you have on your bar are there to generate energy, or they're there to debuff the enemies or CC the enemies. But this is the ability that's going to define your playstyle. And the counter to that, Marc actually has on his bar also is Whirlwind, which we've shown off a little bit. Which it's an ability that you can just use, and then as long as you have it up, it's going. So it's that sort of rhythm of, do I take Power Strike where I tap quicker and quicker, or do I use Whirlwind where it's kind of a longer channel?
Yeah, it's a channel, leaves you a little bit vulnerable to getting interrupted, but can be a little bit easier to hit. So you kind of have to make that choice as you're building your character.
Do we want to, if you guys off camera can queue up a couple questions, then we'll start answering questions while we switch over. So we'll just we're going to switch over to a different section of the game in a sec, but I want to wait till we get a couple questions stored up, and then we can answer those while we switch.
If you notice here, one thing that's kind of cool is I've kind of come over to this area where there's kind of this Elden architecture and also pirates here.
I don't think I ever. Oh, I know where we are. I got lost for a second in my head.
Yeah, I've seen some comments on the internet that say that we aren't actually that sci-fi. There are actually a lot of very heavily sci-fi areas when you start the game, and some of the things that are off-world that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's one of the things that we added in this beta was our 1 to 3 experience that we previously did not have as we were working on it. So new players will be able to see that as well.
Yeah, we're going to show that in a future stream. It's tough to show off class combat in that because it's obviously a tutorial area, so you don't have a lot of abilities. You don't even start with a weapon. You have to go earn that weapon through a couple quests.
It's a very cinematic experience.
It's definitely a very heavily storytelling area. Really cool. You start on the Ark ships, and so you get to start on the Dominion or Exile Ark ship as you're just arriving at Nexus, and so it's a really exciting introduction to WildStar, and we're going to talk about that in the future. All right, so let's go ahead and switch over to the camera view. get off the game, and then we're going to swap. Go ahead and swap over to the character. I'm going to start asking you guys questions while we're switching over. So first, Victoria Rachel wants to know, is there a way to save your favorite action sets? We talked about this a little earlier.
In this round of closed beta, no.
Right.
But in the future, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
We'll let you save your action set. We'll let you save your amps, which we'll talk about later. We'll let you save the ability tier points.
Right. Awesome.
And we might even let you save your gear.
Yeah,
So
I know we've been talking about the gear stuff too, so that way you can switch between tank and DPS really easily.
Right, and those things you'll be able to switch in and out of, whenever you're out of combat.
yeah, it's not something that you're going to be able to do while you're in combat. It's something that you're able to do when you're out.
Right.
Barden Fire wants to know a very serious question. Can the Granok have balls of steel?
I think that's more of a question if the player has them themselves, less than the character. I mean, maybe that's just
You know
me.
what? Players come to our game to be what they want to be.
That's
and
right.
if you want to be a Granok with balls of steel, you can be a Granok with balls of steel.
Is
But
that,
we won't show
is that
them
an
off.
option in character customization?
No, I don't think it is.
I don't.
I
would
don't want
hope
to
not.
promise that.
We'll look into it. We'll debate. And then I want to answer. So we already answered the question about bar swapping. I will say, even though we're looking into building loadouts and letting you swap all that stuff, anyone can build an add-on that can do that. We already have some players in beta who helped build some of those add-ons that, because we have full UI customization, a full add-on. Do you want to bring up the add-on menu real quick to show them something really sweet? I know we showed this last time, but I get really excited
I'll make a
about
small note on the ability to make mods that let you switch out your loadouts. We're going to make sure that there are securities set in place so that you can't switch
don't
out your
scroll down.
loadout while you are in combat.
Yeah, so go ahead and close that. But basically, what you just saw there were all the add-ons that we have, and all of our UI are actually add-ons in the game.
Yeah.
We code, all of our code
It's
is open
pretty
source for the UI.
incredible.
It's insane, the level of openness that our client and UI team have
We
for
use
the
things
UI.
like threat meters and DPS meters that the community has already built.
Yeah, I know
Players are-
Chris, the combat lead, is using one of the damage meters that the community built, and he actually went back to that player and was like, hey, can you just add a couple extra features? That would be really helpful.
It's nice
to me."
because our game is so feature-rich that our UI team is slammed all the
Right.
time, having to create new UIs. So having
shout out to
help
Matt
from
Krause
them.
for
yeah,
doing
Yeah,
absolutely.
Matt stays here and works insane hours to try and get everything in there that we want. But I don't know if anyone can hear Frost off camera just yelling someone's name whenever we call shout out. So Pedal Chuli, before we jump into this new character, Pedal Chuli wants to know, are there free respecs anytime out of combat?
It depends on what it is that you want to respec.
Right.
Things inside the amp system, that's going to have an escalating cost. So every time you respec your amps, it's going to cost more.
You know what?
and more.
Let's show amps. Let's jump into amps now that we. So actually, let's show the Draken first. You just switched over to a female Draken,
Right.
Who's wearing this. I love this helmet. I've never. You guys said you see this helmet all the time, but I've never seen this helmet. You want to pop off the UI real quick?
Yeah.
So this is some sweet gear for the Draken. Still playing a warrior, different level. I think your level. What level is this?
This is 20 now.
20. Okay. And so we got some pretty cool gear. A nice pink tail. And so, do you want to? So let's talk about amps.
Super disclaimer: this is very early.
Yes.
This is a work in progress.
This will actually not be in the first round of winter beta.
Correct.
Yeah, players will be able to look at the UI, but they won't necessarily be able to spend any points within it. So let's bring it up.
Whoops. So this is kind of, we were mentioning before that there are kind of two halves to the class customization side of it. So we showed ability tiering, and now let's talk about amps.
Yeah.
Oh man, everybody's freaking out right now, right?
So
You can see
amps,
chat.
currently you unlock amps at level 6. You'll be able to gain a point every level up until cap level. And then maybe we might give you some more, but we won't talk about that. You're able to spend
And I just want to
points.
say, I know you mentioned this, but this is very, very
Yeah,
temporary,
the
non-art
UI
UI.
is temporary. A lot of the effects are still being worked on our side for like how the amps actually work.
I know the UI and art team were very like, oh my god, don't show it unless you promise me you're going to tell people it's
Yeah.
not done yet.
Yeah.
They don't want us thinking that this is the final art or anything
I
like that.
think it actually kind of looks cool.
I think it makes
already,
sense at
but
least, so that's the
it's
important
definitely
thing.
going to be better by
Yeah,
the time
Put
we
some
launch.
polish on it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go on.
That's fine. And so you'll see that there's 6 quadrants inside
Scroll
this
all the way
hex
here.
grid, and all of these different quadrants. Well, I guess they're not quadrants.
Yeah,
We talked with
sextants?
Aiden about
Sectors,
that.
sectors.
Is it sextant? Is that
It's
really
sextant.
what it is?
Sextant
it is, right?
a word, I'm pretty sure. We had this conversation when we went to lunch yesterday. So we'll call them trees or sections.
Right.
And so you can go into these different trees. You have one dedicated to assault. You have one dedicated to support. You have one dedicated to utility. And maybe I should clarify what support means.
Sure.
That varies on a class-by-class basis.
Mhm.
So if you are a tank, support means it's for your tanking abilities. If you are a healer, that means that it's for your healing abilities.
Right.
And then besides those 3 main groups, you also have the PvP offense, the PvP defense, and then the hybrid. And you'll notice that those 3 smaller branches, they don't have points in that very center area.
In this first
That
rank.
first shaded
in that
hexagon,
first
yeah.
area. They actually require you to spend points into the branches next to them to unlock those.
Right. Yeah, so one thing that's really cool about this is when you start getting points, you can only put the points in these kind of like first little section, this first rank. As you put in more points, you'll start unlocking the other rank, and then finally the last rank. So what he was mentioning that for example, the hybrid doesn't have these points here. You would have to spend points in your assault rank first, and then your support rank, and then you will unlock your hybrid amps. Whoops.
And so you basically have those 3 tiers that go outwards in
Yep.
each hex.
You have to
Right.
spend a certain amount of points in able to get there. And
In order to-
every
yeah.
amp costs a different amount of points.
Let
Well,
me
And so
zoom in
what
here.
kinds of things are we looking at inside? It's like, what are you unlocking? Is it just stats or their abilities?
It varies a bit, but you can range from things like, if you highlight over them, we don't have the tooltip
Yeah,
shown
the
up, but you can
tooltips.
see that this is giving you strike through. This is just one of your secondary stats, and it's going to increase your chance to hit,
Right.
or to avoid deflects. And this is just a passive buff that once you unlock this, you just have that on you at all times.
Right.
And then we have other things that maybe unlock if your shields have been drained. If your shields are drained, all of a sudden you do AoE burst damage, or you blind people that are nearby, that sort of thing. So we have proc events. We also have things that happen like as long as you have shields, you have added capability, like you can't be dazed when you're running, or your sprint's increased. We pretty much try to enhance every part of the character through the system. We looked at every nozzle that we had in the game, and we tried to cram that into this. And it's pretty much all for combat.
And so what's the advantage going to be between going all the way down a single tree versus spreading out across them?
I'll let Marc handle that.
Yeah,
for
so really quick, to explain the different kinds of amps you have series amps like this, which you have to spend
The ones that
points-
are linked together.
Right, you have to spend points in the series to unlock the more advanced ranks in that series, and a lot of them will have what we call caps on them, which are essentially more powerful, more unique things rather than the series. For example, as Hugh mentioned, this is like a basic secondary stat through the series, and then the cap has a more special event. When you miss your enemies, you get a special proc that happens. There are also inlaid amps, which essentially require you to unlock an item through various means in the game, questing, random loot, things like that, crafting, or just buying them. Once you get that item and you use it, you then unlock that amp forever for your character.
So there are going to be amps on this chart that don't unlock because of the number of points you spend in there.
Correct.
You actually have to find them in the open world
Correct.
through a bunch of various ways.
Right,
You'll be able to sell them on the auction house. So if you can't actually find it out there, you'll be able to go and spend the money. If the rare ones are obviously going to cost a lot more,
Right.
and the easier to find.
Right,
Awesome.
like this one, for example, it has a special event when you reach your maximum energy on the warrior and you start pulsing out damage, things like that.
Cool.
There are then also, we do unlock abilities if you spend a bunch of points in them, which will kind of be very powerful, kind of like signature marquee abilities for that.
I think I saw that.
specific
That's
section.
you can see that in the abilities menu, right, where it shows you
Right.
how you unlock it. Yeah.
Right,
there.
yeah. If you go back, if we switch back here to the abilities, you'll see ones that I haven't purchased, and they say at what level they unlock, and then you have your ability here that says it's unlocked through amps that you need to get.
So I think we might have covered the amp system enough. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people that are watching this that are looking more for gameplay.
Yeah,
than
let's jump
for
right
the
back
amp
into
system.
gameplay.
But I'm sure that we piqued the
I know
interest of
the
quite a few
super
people.
hardcore want to see this
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
So
And before we leave that, I want to say that we added that system based on beta feedback,
Yes.
just like the ability tier system.
That was
Players
definitely-
wanted more customization that was tied to their character rather than that was tied to their gear. They wanted to improve themselves, make themselves more unique. And I want to say that the man, the myth, the legend, sometimes people call him Karabiak, some people call him Karabosh. Aiden Karabach made that system. He designed it. We all worked together to improve it, but he's the main designer behind that system.
thank you, Ross. I was waiting for that. So I just want to remind everybody, how many people do we have watching the stream right now? 11,000 people. So
Sweet.
if you tuned in halfway through and you have no idea what's going on, what this game is, I know we're up on the front page of Twitch, and people are probably just clicking on it randomly and like, what is this? This is WildStar. This is an MMO coming out next year, spring 2014. We are a sci-fi MMO set on this legendary planet Nexus. You'll see here we've got action combat. We've got this huge telegraph system where all of your attacks and all the enemy attacks are visible on the ground, and so you can avoid them and whatnot. This week we started off our class drops, where every week we're reintroducing a new class, or maybe introducing some actual unannounced classes in the future. And so this week was the Warrior, so we're here playing the Warrior. We'll be doing this every week for the next 6 weeks, showing off a different class live on the stream, introducing a ton of other features in the game and other systems in the game, but focusing on a different class each week. And so I'm here with Hugh Shelton, who's our class lead, and Marc Matzenbacher, who's our Warrior class designer. And so we are playing through. So we showed off the DPS side of it, and I think you are... You're playing as a tank now, or are you still
I'm now
DPS?
playing as the tank side.
So you're going to notice that he's going to take him a lot more time to kill mobs because his damage output's going to be quite a bit lower, but his defenses are increased a lot. So he's able to take on these 2 big guys, no problem, really.
Yeah, I'm taking pretty much no damage.
So what's this attack that's actually attached to the enemy that you're doing?
So this is a pretty cool attack for the Warrior. It's called Polarity Field. It's an arm cannon shot, so you can do it at ranged. I'll hover over the telegraph here. You can see the range of it. It hits a single enemy, and when I hit them, it creates a kind of damaging field around them. So you want to shoot it at an enemy and then kind of drag them into their buddies so that they are then dealing damage kind of to themselves.
Awesome. So Foofy Moonkin is asking us on the stream, are the Granok the best race for Warriors due to their stats? Like, do they get a stat bonus because they're a Granok, or are there any extra things that races get that make them better suited for certain classes?
We don't want to force people to pick a race based on some stats that just make them better for PvP or PvE or whatever. We want players to choose the class that they like the looks of the most, or they just like the most. We don't want to tie that to combat. So no,
Sure.
Any warrior can be just as good as any other warrior based on your race.
Right, in all specs. One of the questions that we had that we missed really quick was, can you change stances in combat?
Right.
And the answer is yes. If you do, specifically for the Warrior, it will drain all of your kinetic energy. And also the active abilities for both stances share a cooldown, which are very powerful abilities, so we don't want you to be able to just kind of like spam.
So it
them
doesn't
back to
reset the
back.
cooldown on your innate or anything like that. Yeah. And actually, Gunna91 wants to know, do Warriors have a healing ability?
They do have healing abilities. It actually heals their shields rather than their health pool,
Right.
but they have a couple of abilities that heal their shields.
And so they have a lot of survival abilities.
Yeah, I'll let this guy damage him really quick. I actually have it on my bar here. It's called Emergency Reserves. It increases my shield capacity. As you see here, my shields are empty now. If I use it, my shields come
Nice.
back up.
Yes. And you also get some interrupt armor there,
Yep.
too,
Right,
right?
I get some protection from CC.
So that means they can't stun you or knock you down before they actually do
Correct.
it once and knock that interrupt armor
And you notice
off
it's a kind of a small heal at this point, but if you tier that ability up, it'll heal a lot more through the ability tiering system.
DDD Juice wants to know, are there any abilities that prevent shields from regenerating or like slow down your regeneration in PvP?
There's actually an effect that we call overload that you can do to shields that will prevent them from functioning at all for a certain amount of time. So if you see a warrior with full shields, you use this on them and try to finish them off, that sort of thing.
And so it prevents it from
It
growing
prevents it
back.
from blocking anything.
Awesome, awesome. And I know some people are still a little confused about shields. And just to clarify, shields are something that every class has.
Yeah,
it's
correct.
a gear slot.
It's like
if
a force field.
You want to pop up your panel, your character panel. It's actually a gear slot that you'll get as quest rewards. You'll get as you play through the game, and that adds to your shields versus other gear, which might add to and contribute to your health. And so
Right.
that's something every class gets. It's not unique to the warrior or to tanking. What's unique to the warrior is the arm cannon, which is not a piece of gear. It's just part of your ability set, basically.
Right. I think we are in future betas as well. We're going to be adding more stats to the shields.
Yep.
Right
Oh,
now
okay.
they're a little simplified, and they just kind of have a shield capacity, and then we're going to start adding things like their regeneration or their reboot time, all those kinds of things.
Cool. That's actually a good question. Duncan wants to know: do you deal more damage in the middle, like in the core of the telegraph, or like is the edge of the telegraph less damage?
That's going to depend entirely on the telegraph that's hitting you. Certain telegraphs will have extra areas on the outside of them that deal less damage or deal more damage, but that's all going to be based on the attack.
But if it's a single shape attack,
If it's a single
it all
shape,
does the same amount of
it
damage.
all does the same amount of
Right.
damage.
And so you might see attacks that actually like have a circle and then a bunch of checkerboard squares outside of it, and each of those could do different things.
That's right.
Right. This is a good question. I think we just answered this in the Reddit AMA, maybe. Right?
I don't recall.
It's been a
Oh, yeah,
exhausting week. But Kazridian Sorry if I'm butchering everybody's names, but Kesridian wants to know, how do hitboxes relate to character models? Obviously, like, are Chua harder to hit because they're super tiny?
No, they're not harder to hit. We want, for PvP specifically, we want the hitboxes to all be the same size so that you don't have advantage just based on the character model that you choose. Although you do have other advantages because a Granok's freaking tall and a Chua is freaking small, so you're actually able to hide behind parts of the environment so that people can't see where you're at.
But in terms of in terms of visually seeing you, you might not be able to be seen,
Right.
but you still have the same size hitbox.
Yes.
Awesome. Schwab wants to know. CRB Skip Dip Trip wants to know, what are your guys' nicknames?
Well,
Too many to count for
my
me.
nickname is Odds. AODZ.
AODZ.
Which
That's
no
what you go
one
by
ever
on the,
pronounces.
You
Yeah.
go by that on the beta forums?
I use that on the beta forums.
I always
And
call
in
you
games.
AODZ.
Yes, you call me AODZ.
In that awkward way.
That
too.
most people do.
Yeah. And what do you go by?
So my handle is Mercal.
I don't think that's what your brother's asking.
You want to know what my old hair name is? I mean, geez, I got too many to have.
Oh, if we're talking
talking
about
about
work
Marc's
nicknames.
brother is sitting just off camera.
Yeah.
He also works here. He's on the marketing team. That's Max. Max, you want to poke your head in and just wave to the camera? Hi, Max. And
You
so
didn't get in.
Max is off to the side making
didn't get
fun of
in.
Marc. You were not in the shot,
Come on,
but
come
it's
back.
fine. Come behind us.
He's
He-
the older
he-
brother, so he thinks he's got rights to kind of give me shit, and I don't think that works.
And so I'm really excited to answer this question. Schwab just wanted to know, did I just hear double kill when you killed multiple people at once? Is that like a bonus or something?
You
Yes.
definitely hear double kills and triple kills. I don't know about. I can't say with 100% certainty the XP bonus.
So those are recorded by the great and wonderful Fred Tatasciore, who is the narrator in our game. So he yells out when you get double kills and multi-kills. And, something that Frost just revealed on a Vine that we should maybe show off as soon as you're out of combat, if you want to gain a level for us.
Sure.
As soon as you're done with this fight.
One thing really quick before I
Yeah, go on.
defeat this encounter. The double kill and things like that, I'm not sure if you get experience, but one thing you get is what we call momentum buffs.
Yes.
Which are essentially kind of like rewarding buffs that you get for playing well. If you're
They're the skull buffs that you can see on your
right
bar
down
right now.
here. They are if you dodge telegraphs, interrupt enemies, you get
Multi-kill.
killing sprees, or you kill multi-kills like the double kill if you kill a bunch of enemies very fast in succession.
And there's a variety of buffs, but the end goal of them is to make it so that you're able to get through combat faster. You're rewarded for good play by getting these buffs, and then you're able to continue through your quests even faster because you have these buffs on.
And I like it. It's kind of a cool balancing act because you get those buffs also from like jumping from fight to fight and continuing without stopping. And so there's that balance of like, I'm at half health. If I wait and heal myself, I'm going to lose all these buffs. Do I go into another combat? Like I have these buffs that'll make me stronger. Can I last longer? And so it's kind of fun to make a little bit of a decision there of whether you want to pause and let those buffs fall off.
It's actually just another one of those small systems that we have that we kind of take for granted a little bit, but
Right.
it's actually pretty cool.
It's really cool, yeah.
Yeah, it actually, the thing that's really nice is it kind of all goes back then to in the build that you have for your character, you know, what abilities do you have, what tiers are you using, and what amps are you using.
Yep.
So if you have some sustain, you know, healing abilities like emergency reserves or other things that allow you to kind of survive longer at lower health, then you can kind of just keep going in combat and keep those chains going and get the momentum.
Okay,
boost.
before you pull something,
All right.
do we want to show? You want to spin the camera around so
All
we
right,
can see
yeah, let me
this?
turn off
And
the-
we're gonna
all right.
not talk so everybody can hear the gloriousness
Yeah.
of what is about to happen.
Quiet on set.
What just happened?
So, did they hear the VO there too? The voiceover? Yeah. So, first of all, pop that up real quick because we talked about this on the website, but we actually have a new feature where every time you level, it'll actually show you what you just unlocked. So that's
Right.
pretty cool because kind of you know exactly what abilities you can get. You know, it's a reminder of like, oh, I got to go put something new in my amps. I can now do a new ability tier. I can now go buy this ability at the vendor or whatever. So that's a really cool feature. But going back to the awesomeness of leveling up and the over-the-topness, we were just talking about Fred Tatasciore, our narrator. He was in the recording booth a couple weeks ago and recorded us 50 lines for leveling up.
I don't know if I should say this or not, but
You probably shouldn't.
all right, maybe I won't.
What is it?
I think they let one of the curse words go through. They didn't bleep it out properly, and so,
So-
they had to send an email out to the team apologizing.
It was one of my favorite emails. So we had Fred record 50 unique lines. So every time you level, he will say something different, which is just, and every line is amazing. That was written by Chad and the narrative team.
Right.
And they are just so awesome and hilarious. And some of them, yeah, he curses and we were going to bleep it out because it's funny when you bleep something. and we accidentally let one slip through. And so Charlie, our audio director, had to send an email to the studio apologizing if anyone was offended by, I think it was like level 17. He was like, don't use level 17, we have to fix that one.
I think Marc was
Are
offended.
you going to have to apologize for your little F-bomb to the company?
No. This is my stream. I'm
You
going
are the
to send an
authority.
email to the studio saying, I'm sorry I let you all down. It was Frost's fault.
I think we should try to rapid fire some questions.
Yeah,
Right.
so you can go ahead and keep playing, Marc.
Sure.
We're in a really cool OSIN area, and we're just going to start rapid
Doing
firing
a-
some questions
doing a
from
public
chat, because I
event.
know our team in chat has been throwing more and more, and we've just been ignoring them because we're having such a good time up here. So, Smiley Hat wants to know, do you have something in place so that combat roles that deal less damage, like a tank or healer, can still get as much credit for their kill?
I didn't work on this system directly, so
Sure.
I can't say with 100% certainty, but I'm sure that that's something that we'll look at to make sure that players of all roles are rewarded.
Yeah, we're making sure that there is a reason. I mean, especially in PvP, I know we track some stats for tanks and healers to make sure that they get that reward for participation, even though they may not be doing damage. In PvE, that's because it's a very new system. I don't know if it's in right now, but I know they want to look at that sort of thing to make sure that if you're doing something, you're solid.
Yep.
So Isku wants to know, will armor type actually have an impact in combat mitigation-wise? And so how do you plan on balancing heavy armor versus light armor?
So the way it works is actually kind of simple. It's that heavy armor gives you more armor than medium and light armor, and your mitigation is increased by quite a bit.
do we balance that with damage?
We
So-
actually do balance that with damage. So classes that are able to wear heavy armor, you're able to wear it right from the beginning, and you actually get less assault power and less support power from your attributes than the other classes do. And what assault power and a support power
Right.
are, they're basically what the sources are that we use to tell how much damage you do. So if you have brutality on a warrior, you gain assault power, and the more assault power you do more damage with your assault abilities.
And so that means like a spell slinger that uses light armor
They
will
have
by default do more
by
damage
default
than
they
a
have
heavy
a lot more.
warrior.
Yes.
But that also depends on how you build it, too.
And you're also able to counter that a little bit by your stance. So if when he's in his DPS stance, he actually gets a boost up in his assault power, but he gets a subtraction to his mitigation.
Right. So I kind of become a little bit more evened out.
And so Snuff197 wants to know, tell us about the PvP system. There will be arena, right?
One of my favorite parts of the game is PvP.
Of course.
We do that maybe the most on the class team. I don't know if that's
And
good
we're
to say
gonna,
or not.
I will say, we're gonna do a stream sometime in the future. It may not be during the class. Well, it might be near the end of the class stuff. But we're gonna definitely show off PvP. I know that's what people want to see. A lot of people want to see us battle it out. Some people want to see certain people in the studio battle it out specifically.
But just to run off all the things
Yeah.
that we do have arena.
Yes, we do.
We do have battlegrounds.
Yes, we do.
We do have dueling, and then we also have war plots.
Yes, and arenas specifically, because I know that's what he was asking about, were 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5.
Yep, the kind of the ones you'd expect.
Right, and we'll get into arenas, battlegrounds, and war plots on future streams. I know people really want to know about war plots because we haven't really talked much about it at all.
I think Jen will be able to get into that.
So I think I got time for maybe one more question, and then we gotta wrap it up. I want to bring Frost back on for something special.
It's going too
But
fast.
actually, you know what? Let's keep going for a couple more minutes. We got a little more time. We got some extra time.
Give you a little
I'm
bonus.
getting the signal to wrap it up, but I'm like, no. You know what? No. I'm just gonna keep going.
He doesn't care
Yeah.
about what other people have to go do.
I'm just gonna sit here all day. It's fine. So Tokadiniho. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, Tokadiniho wants to know: are amps only passive skills and stats?
Besides being able to get the passive skills and stats, you're also able to unlock abilities that you
Right.
can use in your limited action set. So
And we showed that before in the abilities bar.
Right. Yeah,
yes.
so there are right now currently 3 abilities that you can unlock via amps.
one support, one assault, one utility.
Right.
And
they're
we'll
kinda-
look into how that works once we
Yeah.
put it into beta.
These were kind of abilities that we used to let everybody get, but we felt like they were really strong if you could use them on those other roles.
And so we really want to reward you for sticking with a single
Yes.
path to going all the way down the assault tree,
Yeah.
for
Right,
example.
we also it allows us to potentially even maybe increase their power a little bit because
absolutely.
you have to invest some points
Yep.
to
Right.
get them and whatnot.
Roni Heat wants to know, are paths giving more abilities important for cookie cutter builds? So do certain classes want certain paths in order to maximize their roles?
The path abilities, we switched those up in this last build. We made them so that they're all non-combat abilities. They're things that are for quality of life. They're like create a food table sort of thing so that you can regenerate quicker when you're out of combat. They're things like out of combat only speed buffs or create a portal to a capital city, that sort of a thing. And so we didn't want your path to be tied to combat. We wanted your path to be tied to the playstyle that you most enjoy to play. So we didn't want to force people to have to be a settler every time they're a warrior.
So do you have a couple examples you can give of what like path abilities are?
Well, those were kind of the ones that the portal to the capital city.
Sure.
So you're able to get that as, I forget which path exactly gets that. As an explorer, you have an ability that you're able to drop a teleport pad at your current location. You're able to get a certain distance away from it, and then you're able to teleport back to where you place the teleport pad. So that's really useful for missions where you're exploring an area, you're platforming to get up to someplace high, and you want to get back to the start really quickly.
Right.
That was a lot of the path abilities came out of the path team and the class team working together to make things that would work and would be interesting and cool, but wouldn't affect combat.
Is it right to say that we're making sure that there is no need for that you will not need a specific path to make sure that your class is optimized? Is that the goal here?
Yes, that is the goal.
Yeah, we just wanted to decouple. We didn't have to worry about min-maxers all being soldiers and things like that. We want you to be able to just choose the kind of content that you want to play.
But then we do have gadgets that you can get, which are anybody can pick up these gadgets, and they're kind of more generic type of abilities that could potentially fill up gaps that your class might have. So there's gadgets that heal, there's gadgets that restore shields, that sort of thing.
But they're not restricted by class or anything. You just find them or pick them up or buy them or whatever. All right, so I think we're all done with submitting questions. So if you're still trying to submit questions in chat, we've got all we need. So thank you guys. We're gonna read the last couple ones. What do we got? So Talkson wants to know, what do warriors have to prevent themselves from being kited by ranged classes like a Spellslinger?
Right, so there are a bunch of gap closing abilities. You do have to access some kind of generic CCs like snares and whatnot, but two abilities that I use specifically are Plasma Whip, which I have actually equipped right now, which pulls enemies to me. One of the tiers that you unlock is that it will also snare enemies. And I'm taking on way too many enemies here. Pop my innate.
You can do it. Don't die on stream.
So you popped your innate. You can see his kinetic energy is not decaying right now, and your shield's just regen to full.
Well, yeah, I'm immune to damage there.
Yeah. So tanks are that was pretty impressive. I want to say during rehearsal, Marc died like 4 or 5 times.
He's been practicing,
but he actually wanted to make sure that this looked good.
Hey man,
look at all that loot you just sucked in. That was amazing.
Besides being able to pull enemies, you have an ability called Unstoppable Force, which stops you from being CC'd for a short duration of time. You have ranged attacks thanks to your arm cannon that you can actually hit enemies when they are far away from you. So you have a lot of tools.
My favorite crowd control, Tether.
And
you guys want to explain Tether a little bit?
Yeah, so Tether I don't have at the moment because I'm not high enough level, but it's a arm cannon shot that hits a single enemy. It's kind of like about this range-ish. You hit an enemy and they get tethered to wherever they are standing,
so they won't be able to move away from it.
More than 10 meters away from where they are tethered. But they can destroy the tether if they are quick enough to react, and then they can get away. So
it's so funny to watch every time.
Yeah.
I laugh watching people trying to get away from the tether and they just can't.
There is open world PvP. The people apparently want to know, and I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, it's fine.
No, it was really rude of me.
We're watching this document here that people are throwing questions at us on, and we told them only emergencies should be highlighted in red, and open world PvP is highlighted in red.
I mean,
there is open world PvP. It depends on what type of server you're on, like you would expect. Like you can pick a PvP server, and if you go into an area that's contested, you'll be able to fight the other faction.
That being said, I know Jen, our PvP lead, wants everybody to know that objective-based open-world PvP is not a focus for launch. We do have the standard rule sets for, outside in the open world. You can flag yourself. If you're on a PvP server, you're always flagged. You can go into the other faction's town and go kill all the NPCs if you want. There's going to be a lot of guards there. It's not going to be easy. But it's definitely something that I know PvP players like.
And it's not something that we're against necessarily,
of course,
but it's something that we want to get right, and we want to have time to get it right.
And one of the things I know Jen has said she wants to look out for is once the game launches, she wants to see where people are naturally gravitating and be able to build stuff to support it, whatever gameplay that's emerging from.
Yeah, we don't really want to have a huge PvP area in a zone that people aren't spending their time in.
All right, so I think this will be our last question before we swap over. But Galariel wants to know.
Sounds elvish.
Yeah, almost. Unless I'm pronouncing it totally wrong. Aren't you afraid that endgame's going to be too easy with telegraphs, or that we're going to need to do some crazy dodging all the time?
I don't think he has any idea what type of telegraphs are in store
literally
for
going to
him.
say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
There is craziness that you're going to see at endgame. There's things that you can avoid, things that if you avoid, you may be putting yourself in more danger. Things like as a tank, you kind of have to make the choice: do I want to avoid, or do I want to sit there and eat the damage so that the boss isn't moving around and attacking my allies? All those kinds of things.
And we might need to point out that not necessarily 100% of damage is dealt through telegraphs,
Right.
but most damage is dealt through telegraphs.
And I think, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I have seen a couple of the raid bosses that we are working on, and trust me, they are way more complex than this.
Yeah.
In terms of like, it's not just a circle on the ground, stay out
we
of
have
it.
some people in our beta that are some pretty, well.
We're going to in the
Okay,
future.
okay.
But we're going to be doing raid testing in the future, and it's super awesome. It is. I wasn't sure what to expect. I had the same question that you had originally, which was like, oh, it's just going to be a bunch of red circles on the ground. But it is very awesome. It is super cool, and I am not going to talk about it today.
I mean, maybe checkerboard, that's all I'm saying.
There's one quick one. I know we said one more.
Go for it.
But is the warrior the main tank? That's really going to depend on a lot of factors. All the classes that can be tanks should be able to be a main tank, but that's going to depend on the healer that you have. It's going to depend on the gear that you have. It depends on the skill of the tank. Because the warrior is based a lot around mitigation and being able to heal their own shields, whereas the stalker is able to deflect a lot of attacks. They have a lot of abilities that can get them out of telegraphs, that increase their dodge amount so that they can dodge more frequently. So, yeah.
There is also, I mean, the beauty with the action set and the amps and the tiers and all that thing is that you can kind of create some more niche builds. For example, just get this guy dead here. If we go back to the amp really quick, there's this kind of hybrid section, which is very specifically designed around being an off tank or somebody who's kind of switching between, you know, offensive stance and defensive stance depending on what their group needs. If you need to throw out a taunt to do a tank swap or anything like that. So there are some very niche builds that you can build that are more focused on that kind of thing. So you're not only the main tank or you're only DPS.
Right, and obviously all this stuff is going to need to be balanced really well once we put it into beta and get some feedback on those systems. So one last thing I wanted to point out before I have you guys swap out is our character name here. I don't know if anybody can see it because we're blocking. No, they can see it in the UI. If you look in the bottom left corner, you can see the character name we have here.
Also pop open.
Just wanted to give a shout out to Joe Fi. I don't know if he's watching right now, but Joe Fi was the first confirmed person we had who solved the puzzle we had this week.
Yeah.
And so thanks Frost for the shout out. So yeah, we just wanted to give him a little shout out and congratulate him. Speaking of the puzzle, I want to thank you guys for being on here.
Thank you for having us,
I'm going to have
David.
Frost on here for one little last surprise, but really appreciate it. I am sure you guys will be back in the future for some other things.
Yes, we will. Thanks for watching the stream.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody out there who is interested in WildStar.
So don't go away. We are still here. I'm just going to have Frost jump in and have one of you guys jump out, or both of you guys jump out, so we can do one last final thing. Go ahead and camp. Cool. So go ahead and flip your mics up. And now I'm all alone on the stream. So yeah, go ahead and log it in. And then while we're doing this, I have so I just want to remind you guys before I forget that we're still taking beta signups. Winter beta is starting very soon. We've shown off today one of the early versions of this new version of WildStar. There's a lot of changes in there. We're going to need lots of feedback, so we're going to be ramping up beta pretty fast. We're going to invite all the old people back. We're going to invite lots of new people. And so it's really exciting. So go to wildstar-online.com and sign up for beta. And then, what else did I forget? Hello, Frost.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great.
Welcome back. I'm going to move
Thanks.
this chair out of the way just
right.
a little bit. Whoop, there goes my headset.
Easy, bro.
So,
Well, why not?
so there's one thing that we forgot to talk about, but we didn't really forget.
We
So
didn't,
earlier
yeah.
this week, we launched the WildStar Warrior Dev Speak.
We did.
And hidden in that disclaimer was a little bit of a puzzle.
I would say it's more than a little bit. It was dastardly,
It was.
perhaps, in its construction.
It was awesome, is
Yeah.
what it was. Our very own Chris Hennell, who was part of the cinematics team and also known as Disclaimer Guy,
AKA.
put together that puzzle. And through the ingenuity of the community, everybody kind of came together and worked through it and discovered a little preview of something cool we have in the game.
I'd also like to say, we've been in a bunch of conventions, done some interviews, that sort of thing. My goal with this was that somebody would poop themselves.
And did they? Would you say that they did?
I got a couple tweets saying, Daddy, I pooped myself. So.
Are you sure that had to do with WildStar? Are you sure that is what they were referring to?
Daddy, totes pooped myself because of hoverboards. Thank you.
If anyone's wondering, Frost will not be joining us for future streams.
What?
But
Come on.
thank you.
You mean Daddy?
All right, so let's go over and switch over to the game and show what everyone wants to see. That's right.
Oh, dude, hoverboard.
Hoverboard, which is, there you go. So, yeah. So we got hoverboards in the game.
So something else I'd like to point out. Oh, dude, don't get attacked by
Oh,
wolves.
God.
Oh, please go. Our mounts have health.
They do, yes.
Yeah, so
Can
if
I
you get
see that if I
attacked,
put the UI back on? Yeah, there it is.
so if you get attacked, that health will start to deteriorate, and when it's done, obviously it'll disappear. So that's something that's kind of cool. Also, our hoverboards work on water, bro.
Yeah, where's the water? It's over here.
It's over there.
So
We've
I've got a
little
nice
pond.
speed boost here. You can see that little
Yep.
flames
You
coming
can
out.
shift sprint and
And I
run
can
around.
also jump and also grab the board.
double jump.
What up? There we
Yeah.
go. Up, right here.
Over
Look at that.
water.
Look at that.
Dude, you know
Wait,
what I'm saying?
Look, I'm moving. I'm not actually stuck there.
We've
Yeah, that's right.
upgraded the hoverboard,
What
bro.
up? This is the year. This is not 2015.
No, this is your awesome.
So yeah, this is
you're
not.
welcome.
I know some people were asking this, and I know Jeremy Gaffney answered in Reddit. This is not the only mount we have. This is just one of many awesome things we have planned for WildStar. But we wanted to show this one off since you guys solved the puzzle and found Marc Humes, our UK community manager, says you need power for us.
I do. Ultimate power.
Yeah,
You
what
know
up?
what? This is probably one of my favorite mounts in the game, if not the favorite. But we've got some really cool ones too that we'll show off later.
And a lot of people were saying, you know what this might lead to? You know what would be awesome? Hoverboard races. And Jeremy Gaffney, right before I came on today, said to me, hey, make sure you mention that we would love to do hoverboard races someday. That would be super awesome, and we have nothing against it, and we think it should be everywhere in the entire game.
Agreed.
So that's not to say it's in there right now, but I know that it is something that the team thinks would be a natural progression here.
Also, something that I like to do in capital cities is grind rails, yo. It's not like
Oh, I'm not as good at that as you are.
yeah, well, it's not like Tony Hawk or anything where you're like glued to it, but you know, sometimes just riding around, just hitting the rails.
Also, I just want to point out, because we've never really played Algorok at night. It's night here in Algorok. Yes, there's a day-night cycle. And right now you can see there are these sleeping cow things.
They're called roans.
So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to tip them.
Dude, it's a challenge.
So
Challenge.
we do have day-night based challenges like this one where I can tip cows when they fall asleep at night. And I just thought that was hilarious and had to point it out.
It is hysterical.
So I think that's it. Marc is trying to make you do various impressions through our doc here, I see.
Yeah.
But
Oh, shout out Brizzick for the hoverboards, and also Doug Kaup for working on
and
this.
yes,
Man, both of those guys put in the time. This is just a testament to our dev team here. It was a side project that these guys were working on in off hours. And
Oh, God.
they just
Oh,
let-
God.
oh, dude, the cows are pissed at you. And you know what? It was awesome that they just did that in their free time, brought it to the art director and a couple of the other directors, and said, you know, we need to put this
and
in the
it
game.
is as amazing as everyone wants it to be.
Yeah,
and as
it
all
is
of us,
awesome.
it's way cooler than any of us expected it to be.
Yeah. most
So, that about wraps it up for us for this episode. I want to remind everyone to go to the WildStar website. Now that we're doing these class drops every week, we will have a specific page up for each of these classes with all the details about the class, you know, some examples of armor sets that you can look at, the different weapons, the different abilities they use. We've got dev speaks for each of the classes coming up. And also, if you missed any parts of this live stream, or if you're telling your friends about it later, send them to the WildStar website to that class page, and we'll have the archived video up of the live stream, so they can check out the warrior. They can see everything we did, every time we died or messed up, anytime we said profanity on the stream. I'll try and cut that out, but I probably can't.
Probably can't.
Probably can't. It's there forever.
Thanks.
So, anything else you want to say, Frost?
Look forward to the Esper next week.
Oh, you know what we should talk about? So, the
Oh.
Frost. So, Chad Moore, also known as Pappy, our
Pappy.
narrative designer, our
Pappy
narrative
Moore,
lead
okay.
here, he sounds kind of like that.
Dude. All right, lore for the WildStars.
He sounds literally like that, actually. He's been talking a lot of smack lately about your skills at PvP.
Right. I just want to point out, I will decimate Pappy. You know what he does for a living? He writes things. Okay?
Yeah.
You know what I do for a living? Snap necks and cash checks. Okay? That's what I do. And
So-
I'm going to do that to Paps
So
live
we're-
on the internet.
We are planning a live match between Frost and Pappy sometime in the near future during one of these streams. I think we'll do it right after one of the streams after we show off one of the classes. So we're looking into doing it. I don't want to promise, but it might be next weekend during our Esper stream. I know that I asked you're around, and I asked Chad, and he said that he had to ask his wife for permission.
AKA
I don't know if that's
Pappy's
true.
scared.
I don't know if that's true.
Doesn't
I also know
wanna
he was
know.
trying to be like, well, maybe we should bring in Jen Gordy and she can show me how to do.
He's scared, dude. You
I-
know what? I don't know, man. I mean, here's the thing. I got things to write. I don't know if I can fight
Yeah.
Frost because he's way better at me than everything.
So we'll see if we can do it next weekend. It's going to be pretty awesome because I think Chad has no idea what he's in for, and I've given him plenty of chances to back out of this, and he's all like, "Dude, I got this."
Dude, I've been training with Hugh. All right. That we've been listening to.
You've literally
montage
been working
music.
with the people who make the classes.
Bro, I'm on the computer. They're like dabbing my head to get the sweat off. 'cause
So
I'm training so hard.
This should be a pretty quick fight. We'll leave maybe 30 seconds at the end for it because I think it'll just be done, dead.
Oh man, you know what? I can't wait for him to write how great his death was.
Into
By
the
then.
game.
Yeah.
We'll make it part of the official WildStar lore,
Yeah.
the death of Pappy.
He was smote on a specific day.
We'll have a little gravestone for him.
Yeah.
I actually want to do this now. All right, that's it. We're going to wrap up. Remember to sign up for beta on our website. Subscribe to the Twitch channel. Click follow right underneath the Twitch stream so that way you get notified whenever we're going live. Follow us on Twitter. We're team_WildStar. Follow us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/WildStarOnline. We are all over the place. We're everywhere. And we will be back in 1 week showing off the Esper. So have a great weekend, everybody, and thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys.